This is the latest Remnant Fly. This is just a little kind of Catskill style dry fly, very simple, basic dry fly, tied with a little bit of extra pheasant tippet. The body, you could use a dubbing on it. I used some Marabou and just a dry fly hackle. Not much to this at all. It's all leftover materials, a little bit of floating on that, and you could have a lot of fun in the evening, especially for panfish. That's the latest Remnant Fly. I'll get started tying. So I'm going to start the latest Remnant Fly with my hook and the vise. This is I'm thinking it's a Mustad 480, 841, 3481. It's a dry fly hook, but it's like a 2x long dry fly hook. Could also be like a TMCO 5263 in a size 10 or something streamer hook. It's pretty light wire, but it's a small size. This is going to end up just being a real basic dry fly pattern. So I just picked this out as just kind of a small dry fly hook, and we're going to go with it. So I'm going to debarb the hook. For thread, I'm going to use a Danville 70 denier in black. I'm going to start my thread behind the eye of the hook. Now this is essentially going to end up as just kind of your basic Catskill dry fly pattern. Been looking at some of these leftover dry fly hackles like this in my remnant kit and just keep thinking that I should do something with them that's just a basic dry fly. This isn't necessarily to teach a Catskill style dry fly as much as it is just to use some leftover material to tie a dry fly. For the tail on this, I'm going to use some ring-necked pheasant tippet. No, this is golden pheasant tippet. Yes. And I'm only going to use maybe about a half dozen of these. This is just to add a little support to the back end. Actually, I probably have about 10 to a dozen of them. I'm going to tie that in so that's about a shank length long. On these Catskill style dry flies, it's most important that you have a tail that is long enough, but you have something that's going to be strong enough to support the fly in the surface film. With this long hook shank, that probably could be a little bit longer, but we're going to go with it. Now, the other thing is I'm going to use for dubbing, I don't have any dubbing right handy, but I'm going to use some Marabou here. Just some of this Marabou to wrap in as a dubbing, but I would like to put a little bit of a rib in. And rather than do a wire rib, I thought I would show you, you can actually use like the rachis or quill of a feather as well, you can use it as a body in some dry flies, but also as like a rib, just to add a little bit of reinforcement. Now, it's not the strongest rib in the world because obviously if the fish have any teeth at all, they can very easily break that. Not that the dubbing is going to all fall apart if you do, but it's not as strong as, say, a wire. So I'm going to strip almost all of the barbs off of that so that I want still to have a nice, pretty sturdy tip to that to tie in. I'm going to tie that in and anchor that down. Come back down and I'm going to start doing my dubbing. This is really straightforward. And I'm doing this mostly. I did another fly recently. I think it was another Remnant Fly, as a matter of fact, where I did the same thing. I did some dubbing or some Marabou for dubbing. A lot of people, this has been used for a long, long time as a dubbing kind of substitute or, dubbing material. And a lot of people don't really use it that often. because nowadays everybody likes to use, just a regular dubbing. I'm going to come forward with this to about 2/3 up the hook shank. And then I'm going to go back down just a little bit. I want to just add a little bit of body to this. You get down to some of the ends here, you can trim that smooth. If this were a smaller hook, I would have just stuck with the body that I had. Oh, hold on a second. Got my thread there. So I'm going to put my hackle pliers on that to hold on to it. Not that it was planned, but this is a good time to point out that you're going to cut your thread sometimes, and when you do, generally the fly doesn't immediately fall apart. So you just don't panic, and grabbing the end like I did there, I can put my hackle pliers on there, rethread my bobbin, there we go, reattach my thread, and I'm just going to reattach and wind down over it, which works because I was going to widen that body out there anyway. And then I can take my hackle pliers off. That tag end of thread and that excess, I can snip all that off. So now we grab a little bit more dubbing material. I'm going to actually, in this case, you notice it got wider when I tied it in with the tips into the ends here. It got wider, so I'm going to start out with the wider. You don't need as much of the keratin on the ends of those where that was stripped from the rachis. And all I'm doing is just adding a little moisture to my finger to grip the material a little bit better. But I'm just going to go ahead and start that right in here. Give that a little twist and just come right up here. And that's about it. I'm going to go back and try and smooth that out a little bit. I had just a little bit of a odd thing happen with the body there. There we go. That's good. So I'm going to go ahead and just tie this in. This is also, like I said, just a very quick and dirty dry fly pattern. It's not anything to write home about. It's taking some leftover materials, but at the same time, is showing you how you can just make a very, very basic dry fly. And obviously, this marabou is going to soak up a little water, so you're going to want to coat this with some sort of a floatant. And you can do that like with a dry fly floatant prior to. So in other words, as soon as you're done tying it, you can put some of that floatant on, or you can wait till you get on the stream and put some on there. Okay. Cleaning this up just a little bit. So now I'm going to put my rib on and I'm going to wrap that rachis and that quill just maybe about 4 or 5 times. And this is just going to help to protect it a little bit. It gives it a little segmentation, but it's mostly just to help to protect it. Wrapping this backwards just a little bit, I'm going to tie in my dry fly hackle, and this is just a brown dry fly hackle. Extends maybe a gap, maybe a gap and a half. I'm going to show you something interesting you can do when you prep this. These barbs right here, I got perpendicular to the rachis and trimmed those, leaving those stubs on there. It gives me a little bit of handle to tie that in. Then I peeled the barbs right behind it off. And the reason is that way, when I start to wrap this in, I don't have barbs right here that are going to be lashed down pointing in a rearward direction. As soon as that rachis gets perpendicular like this, these barbs will all come off nice and perpendicular. Securing that in back at the wing section, I'll bring my thread forward to behind the eye of the hook. And I'm going to probably put in 4 or 5 turns, maybe 6, depends on how much I have of this feather, just to give this a nice, thick, bushy collar right up front here. Went back on a turn there a little bit to fill that in. I'm just going to keep on going. Some of your Catskill style dry flies have a little bit more of a dainty collar to them, meaning they only have a few turns. But then some of them also get quite thick, quite bushy. This one I'm going to go for the quite bushy. I'm going to secure the end of that in. Stroking all of that back, wetting my fingers a little bit. I'm going to stroke all this back so that I get all that tied in. And those little barbs right up front aren't going to be trapped in a forward direction. There we go. Now, I'm not putting much of a head on this at all. I just want just enough to secure that in. Because I don't want to lash those barbs in a rearward direction. Before I cut my thread off, I'm going to pop that off. Cut my thread. A little head cement on there, and we have us just a really nice little dry fly. Now, I don't know if that would probably work in trout circles. It might. I don't see why not if they were keying in on something like this. It certainly doesn't resemble any particular hatch that I know of, but this would be a great little evening panfish fly. Some actual dubbing on that body might work a little bit better, but nice use for a little bit of leftover pheasant crest and or tippet, marabou, and a dry fly hackle. So that's the latest remnant fly, a little dry fly. Thanks for watching. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.